My name's Robert, and I'm an addict.
Robert.
Let's open the meeting up with a moment of silence, followed by the we version of the Serenity Prayer. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and wisdom to know the difference. All right, step 8. We made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 8 is a test of our newfound humility. Our purpose is to achieve freedom from the guilt that we have carried. We want to look the world in the eye with neither aggressiveness nor fear. Are we willing to make a list of all persons we had harmed to clear away the fear and guilt that our past holds for us? Am I willing to do that yet? Our experience tells us that we must become willing before this step will have any effect. The 8th step is not easy. It demands a new kind of honesty about our relations with other people. The 8th step starts the process of forgiveness. We forgive others, which is what we kind of worked on in steps 4 and 5, and the resentments and forgiving people. We forgive others. Possibly we are forgiven in the 9th step. And finally, we forgive ourselves and learn how to live in the world. By the time we reach this step, we have become ready to understand rather than be understood. We can live and let live easier when we know the areas in which we owe amends. It seems hard now, but once we have done it, we'll wonder why we did not do it long ago. I didn't have that feeling. I really never had the idea that, making amends to people was anything fun to do. In fact, it's probably the least favorite step I look forward to was 8 and 9. And it took me a while and a few of them to go through before I actually did see a lot of the benefit from them. We need some real honesty before we can make an accurate list. In preparing to make our 8-step list, it is helpful to define harm. One definition of harm is physical or mental damage. Another definition of harm is inflicting pain, suffering, or loss. The damage may be caused by something that is said, done, or left undone. Harm can result from words or actions, either intentional or unintentional. The degree of harm can range from making someone feel mentally uncomfortable or inflicting bodily injury or even death. So, separating what my intentions were, I had good intentions, but they went sideways. Looking at my actions, not judging myself by my intentions, but what I actually did. And the effect of what my actions or inactions did. Because it says in there, even the things that we left undone, so like not being present for my kids' ball games to the level I felt that I should have been there for them. Those are things that I left undone. I wasn't there. I wasn't present for them emotionally, mentally, physically, and not to the degree that I felt that I should be. So I knew that I left those things undone. So that goes on the list. I didn't have any unpaid child support because I've never been divorced yet. So, so that's kind of some things that some people wind up getting to on this kind of step. Kids that they didn't, take any responsibility, stuff like that. There's no action, so those kind of things go on the list. I never paid any attention to my spiritual health. So guess what? That's something I left undone my whole life. I didn't even realize I had a spiritual self until I got to these rooms. And so now it's something that I need to put on my list as well. We want to get the main list of what is in our life that we've been lacking in, and what do we owe back to the people we harm. So we're going to get to a little bit more of this a little further, but I just wanted to touch that left undone and done kind of stuff a little bit. The 8th step presents us with a problem. Many of us have difficulty admitting that we cause harm for others because we thought we were victims of our addiction. If I didn't have this monkey on our back, I wouldn't have done all those things. When in reality, most of the time, being loaded was just a convenient excuse to let go of all my inhibitions and do whatever the hell it was that I wanted to do anyway. Most of the time, I was conscious of exactly what I was doing. I just wanted to blame it on that. Avoiding this rationalization is crucial in the 8th step. We must separate what was done from us from what we did to others. It's not their list. It's our list. The rest of the world isn't recovering. I'm recovering, so I got to take responsibility for my actions. We cut away our justifications and our ideas of being a victim and own our part. We often feel that we only harmed ourselves, yet we usually list ourselves last, if at all. This step is doing the legwork to repair the wreckage of our lives. We got that reading, and we read in the meetings all the time that, but most of all, we harmed ourselves. And I used to cringe about that one, because truth is that I'm the only person that I tried to please 100% of the time. My intention was always to get mine, to make me happy. Did I do it at the cost of my physical health? Yes, I did. Did I do it at the cost of my financial? Everything was affected in my pursuit of making myself happy. So I did a lot of harm. And most of the time I knew I was doing the harm to me. So, in a way it was intentional, but I couldn't stop myself, right? How long are you going to crap blood and piss blood and not go to the doctor to find out what that problem is? I knew what that problem was. And I knew when I went to the doctor, they were going to say, well, quit getting high, quit doing those drugs, and I wasn't ready to quit doing those drugs. So there was no sense in me going and seeing the doctor. But after I got clean, part of that was going and getting a full checkup and getting the colonoscopy and getting all the things to find out if there was anything wrong with me. So that's part of the 9th step later on, having to face those kind of things. It will not make us better people to judge the faults of another. It will make us feel better to clean up our lives by relieving ourselves of guilt. By writing our list, we can no longer deny that we caused harm. We admit that we hurt others directly or indirectly through some action, lie, broken promise, or neglect. We make our list, or take it from our 4th step and add it to additional people as we think of them. We face this list honestly and openly examine our faults so that we can become willing to make amends. In some cases, we may not know the persons that we have wronged. Lots of collateral damage out there, people I didn't even know I was hurting. While using anyone that we contacted was at risk. Many members mentioned their parents, spouses, children, friends, lovers, other addicts, casual acquaintances, coworkers, employers, teachers, landlords, and total strangers. We may also place ourselves on the list because while practicing our addiction, we have slowly been killing ourselves. We may find it beneficial to make a separate list of people to whom we owe financial amends. So my practice is, and my suggestion always is on the 3rd step, and the way I did it was I broke it down into 3 categories. My list I had my financial stuff that I had to make, which I didn't have any money. I was way in debt when I first got clean. I owed everybody, so there was a big list. And so my financial one was pretty much the individuals that I owed, and I got a credit report, pretty much put that right on top of on the financial part of it. And then my other 2 lists that I made up was the people that were family and friends and people that really were close to me, because many of us have people in our lives that were like family or more like family to us than what our real families really were. We have those close friends. So those are more of our intimate relationships. And I had that list that I put that down on. And then I had my other list that was pretty much, sorry about your luck, you were in the wake of my destruction list kind of thing. The people that really weren't important to me, the people that I stole miscellaneous stuff that didn't even know, the cars that I broke into, the parts that I'd stole, the businesses that I'd stole from, and all the shoplifting, and I can't tell you how much I owe Circle K for the amount of stuff I boosted from them when I was a teenager. It's unlimited, but the list for that kind of stuff, because even though that was financial, there's other ways to make that amends. So that went on those 3 lists. And I find personally for me, when I first started writing the list, it was like, do I go all the way back my whole life? Do I need to write a list of every kid that I beat up in school when I was going to school, every fight that I ever got into, every time I went to the principal's office for getting in a scuffle for this? I couldn't remember these people. Now I could be Dick Tracy and go get the old school yearbooks and dig up every one of these people and really micro manage making my amends and going into great detail over these things. And maybe that stuff would have had a whole lot more weight to me had I done the ninth step back when I was 15 years old, when I first came to Narcotics Anonymous, because that was a lot more fresher baggage back then. But it was more important for me to start my list of exactly what's going on in my life right now and going backwards. Because the main thing that was important in the beginning for me was to get some peace in my own household. I had to get on with making some amends to my wife first, and that was kind of like my tactical look, was starting with the present right now and going backwards, not going up and digging up a bunch of stuff from the past that's ancient history that's already water under the bridge for most cases. Don't get me wrong, if some old high school guy that I beat up or we got in a fight or something shows up in a meeting or knocking on my door someday or put in my path, I got to take that as, God putting somebody in my path that I need to clean up a mess with. But I don't need to go playing Dick Tracy to dig up every little thing that went on back there. I got a lot of baggage that needs to be dealt with first before I get to being that kind of Gandhi around here, So 3 pages makes it really simple. We get the priorities going that way, and leave yourself a couple of pages in between, depending on how long you think your list is going to be. So in the notebook, just start off with those 2 things. And if you don't have a credit report, nowadays you can get on the Credit Karma and pull up all kinds of stuff for free apps and stuff like that to find out where you're at and make a list that way. It's important to make the list so we can really look at what it is that this is face everything and recover. So if I'm going to start straightening out financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, every area of my life has to be addressed. I can't just say I ain't got no money, so no sense in looking at it. No, I need to look at everything for what my part in it and what I need to do to clean it up, because I'm putting together like the inventory of my personal defects. Now I'm putting together the stuff that I've got to go repair to the best of my ability on the outside when I can, however I can, and be of the heart that I really want to make things right. Yeah. As with each step, we must be thorough. Most of us fall short of our goals more often than we exceed them, especially when it comes to making an 8-step list. Our goals more often than we exceed them. At the same time, we cannot put off completion of this step just because we are not sure that our list is complete. So we just start off the list. Most of us can sit down and, less than an hour and write more than an adequate list to keep us busy for the next 10 years without much problem, right? So get the list written, and then we worry about becoming willing. We are never finished. The list is always going to go on, and we're going to think of other things as they go. If my heart says it's harm, it's harm. It's harm. That's the main thing. That's the definition. If I'm thinking about it, if it's haunting me, if this vision of what I did keeps bugging me, it needs to go definitely on the list. Especially if I've wrestled with it more than once or twice before just putting it on the damn list, it needs to be on the list. I need to listen to this little voice inside me that's saying put it on the list. I can deal with that later on with my sponsor. Just write the damn name on the list, and then we worry about it when we get down the road on it. The final difficulty in working the 8th step is separating it from the 9th step. Projections about actually making amends can be a major obstacle both in making the list and in becoming willing. We do this step as if there were no 9th step. Good luck with that. We do not even think about making amends, but we just concentrate on exactly what the 8th step says. We make a list, and then we work on becoming willing. That's how it pretty much breaks down. The main thing this step does for us is to help us build awareness that little by little we are gaining new attitudes about ourselves and how we deal with other people. I'm not running through life no more just turning and burning and, tearing shit up, because I know that if I'm going to be living this spiritual way of life, whatever damage I do to you, however I screw you up over today, I know I'm going to have to pay for it later on. There's no more my whole life I lived like I didn't care, like I wasn't going to be living around long enough to pay anything back, or, I burn through people the same way. You piss me off, screw you, you're off my list, I block you, you're out, done, kick rocks. It was easy for me to write people off. And this thing tells me that no matter what it is, even if somebody is more of an asshole than I am or whatever, and I need to get rid of them out of my life, I need to do so with dignity, where I know I don't have anything to clean up off of my side of the street anymore. because this is about my journey. I got to keep my side of the street clean if I'm going to live this spiritual way of life. And I can't ignore and bullshit myself into thinking that I can just keep running through this thing called life like the Schlitz malt liquor bull in the china cabinet and tearing shit up and not worrying about looking at the wake of destruction in my past anymore. Because whatever I do, I know I've got to clean up if I want to be right with this in here. So I'm looking at it completely different. Listening carefully to other members share their experience regarding this step can relieve any confusion that we may have about writing our list. Also, our sponsors may share with us how the 8-step worked for them. Asking a question during a meeting can give us the benefit of a group conscience. Can also get us really confused sometimes. The 8-step, consider the source of your information wherever you're at. Always. I value my information, so I'm going to go to somebody who's living an impeccable life when I'm getting this kind of information. I'm not just going to take it from the general peanut gallery in any meeting. So just throwing that out there. The 8-step offers a big change from a life dominated by guilt and remorse. Our futures are changed because we don't have to avoid those who we have harmed. As a result of this step, we receive a new freedom that can end isolation. I don't have to hide from anything anymore. As we realize our need to be forgiven, we tend to be more forgiving. At least we know that we are no longer intentionally making life miserable for other people. The 8-step is an action step. Like all other steps, it offers immediate benefits. We are now free to begin our amends in the 9th step, is what that one says there. So that's pretty straightforward. Got some stuff out of the step working guide, not a whole lot, but we got the questions. Really, I got the questions that we already on the question sheets that we're going to go through. And I just wanted to read this one part out of the step working guide here. It says in the 8th step, we'll focus on honesty, courage, willingness, and compassion. To practice the principle of honesty in the 8th step, we need to draw on our experience in the previous steps. We admitted the nature of our problem, addiction, and affirmed the solution to that problem. This is an act of honesty. We've taken a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Doing so exercises a newfound honesty. Extracting the nature of our wrongs from within the fabric of our personalities took our honesty to a deeper level. What did I actually do? You know, I obliterated my wife's self-esteem. I made her second guess herself all the time. I made her walk around on eggshells around me all the time, being worried about, when I really look at how my actions and how I treated my wife for so many years, demanding things to always be my way, and I just see it in her whole personal makeup still today. 20 years later in recovery, I still see that in her. That had I been building her up another direction than the way I was tearing her down, she might be a whole lot more confident and outgoing than she is right now. I have a part in creating that. I have one of the books that I read about a guy having a near-death experience, and he actually used to be the guy that answered the phone line here in town for the suicide prevention hotline. This was back 20 years ago. He'd wrote a book, and it's a quick story, but it's worth telling. He was a limo driver, and he was pimping and pandering and selling drugs and all this kind of stuff in active addiction. But when he was a young man, about 8 or 9 years old, he drowned in a pool, and he legally was dead. And when they pulled him out of the pool and they were doing CPR, trying to bring him back to life, before he came back to life, in the book, he shares how he had this come to the light experience, the see Jesus, the bright light, and the loving glow, and something was like welcoming him. And he said in his story, that the person that greeted him said, "No, we're not ready to take you yet. You need to go back and live the rest of your life." And he woke up coughing water and all that kind of stuff. But he remembered that distinct, loving kind of light that he was going to. Okay. Later on in addiction, in and out of the rooms, NA, trying to get clean, going back out, ripping and running. He finally got where he was ready to, he was going to commit suicide, and he took a bunch of drugs and overdosed. And he said at this time, when he went to his near-death experience, that he woke up in this sea of quicksand where he could neither sink or swim or get out of the way. And that the feeling that he had while he was in this quicksand was that he felt the rippling effect of every pain he had ever caused any other human being, how that pain rippled through the lives of the mothers, the children, the spouses, the people in that person's lives, from, pimping girls out and doing all the sex stuff that he was in, the trafficking and all that kind of stuff. And in his book he explained, just that all he could do in this like locked in this quicksand that he had very little movement was, and he described it like a purgatory kind of thing, that all he was able to do was feel and refeel all these bad feelings that he had made everybody else go through. And I bring that up not in a redemption kind of thing, but when we're trying to look at how our pain ripples through and through our family lives and our personal lives and the people that we've done damage to, that is the nature of the tidal wave that we create through living in active addiction. Our parents, they'd awake all night, tossing and turning whether or not the next phone call they were going to get was, the police or the hospital saying that we're dead and overdosed, and all the pain that we put our parents through and stuff like that. It's really important in the nature of what the damage was that I did, that I at least take a little note. I mean, it's not going to hurt me to put my mom's name down here and write a short little paragraph of exactly what it was that I do owe my mother for, and a quick little note about what it was that I really do owe my wife for. I don't get down to the Freudian sense of, writing this big old lint, like I'm trying to beat myself over the head with a freaking shovel, but own my stuff to a degree that is reasonable, that, yeah, I did all these things. And so I know what it is that I got to pay back. And a simple, I'm sorry, is not going to cut it. That it's going to take some actions and some attitudes and some interest and some love to start correcting the damage that I've done. It's very, very, very important. I thought the dude's book was really cool. He had a bunch of other near-death experiences in his book that he wrote about, and it's very, very, very insightful. Because I was an addict. I never ever, while I was out there getting loaded, the only time I was remorseful was when I got caught, because it meant that I couldn't keep fucking you around. I was pathological. I did not care whether or not I was taking lunch money out of food out of other people's mouths, or gas money out of people that had to get to work the next day. I was stealing I was messing cars up left and right, getting my stuff and leaving things, just the stuff that I did. Looking at exactly what it was that I'm responsible for putting out into the universe. And it lets me know a little bit more of just how far I need to stay humble, because I can work my ass off the rest of my life, and I know I'm never going to be flush with this. And it doesn't mean that I use it to beat myself over the head with it, but it keeps me humble. So when life deals me a shit sandwich, instead of me getting all pissed off because I got screwed out of a deal by something on somebody, or somebody stole something from me, that I can easily chalk it up to the shit that I got away with, and the shit that I can't quite pay back. But anyway, owning it, putting on the list the nature of what it is, and then we work on becoming willing, which is the next level of it. So now we got the questions that are on this sheet here, and like I always say, as we read these questions, try to ask yourself the question, because I may be asking you to answer it. I'm going to go around the room and randomly pick people to answer the questions. This pretty much represents every question in the STEP working guide, as far as the questions it lays out. So it's a pretty thorough representation. They might be shortened versions of the questions. Some of them are to make them yes, no, not necessarily write a long book about them, but they do get to the point. So step 8, again, on that worksheet, we say we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Number 1, am I hesitating in any way about working the 8th step? Raul?
No.
Okay, have it ready next week? Or are you hesitating?
No.
Okay. Okay. So number 2, which is this one would be an A and B question with 2 and 3. Do I realize the need to slow down and consult my sponsor before making amends? Remember, we're just making a list in this one, and then we work on a game plan with our sponsor as we're entering the 9th step of how we're going to approach these. Right now, we're just writing the list. We'll prioritize them and organize them and set sail on them in the 9th step. This is just making the list and then becoming emotionally, mentally, and from a heart place, willing to make the amends. We're not quite visualizing the amends being made yet. We are just, okay, we see what the exact nature is. What degree do I have to go to try to correct that harm? So, do I need to realize that I need to slow down and consult my sponsor before making amends? Kenny? Yeah. Okay. Have you created more harm by rushing out to make amends before you were ready, Kenny?
Not yet, because I haven't begun making amends yet.
Okay, that's good. I got 90 days, Mom, Dad. Can I have the car keys? That's a good one. Or, look at me. I've been clean 30 days. You think my wife would give me the debit card back, or some of those kind of things. People try to make apologies so they can set people up for the next fall, right? So, number 4, list the resentments that are in the way of my willingness to make amends, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
You got a rough list of the top 3 or 4 people on your resentment list that you'd like to put on there? You'd like to share? Not quite ready to bring that one out in the group. That's cool. If you don't have to share it if you don't.
Definitely not in the group.
Okay, no worries. That is fine. It's more than fine. Does anybody have a resentment that they want that somebody that you resent that you feel screwed you over more than you screwed them, that you owe an amends to for something you've done? Anybody got one? Don't want to share?
Yeah.
Okay. Your ex-wife? Okay. And extrapolate?
I think when we separated, I got the shit end of the stick and from that relationship. So I'm not saying I did a lot of bad shit in that relationship, but I think I got the shit end of the stick.
So, how are you working with that resentment?
Just praying for the willingness to forgive her, forgive myself.
And can you still put her on the list and write the nature of what you did wrong and separate that from where she made out better? Yeah. I mean, because that, and the scorekeeping of it, of, the other people got this, and, like my resentment with my father, in the grand scheme of things, he left a lot of things undone that I felt he owed me as a father that he never did. And the few things that I did to inflict harm to him that I felt I owed him for were fairly small, though they needed to be made on my end, and I had to be willing to at least do those things and forgive his resentment. Forgiving my father for being a sick Skid Row alcoholic, in and out of prison and living on Skid Row all of his life. How can I not forgive my father for having the same damn deadly disease that I got? Given the same, if you had the same equipment your wife does and the same thing she got, you would have been doing the exact same thing to her if the script was flipped, correct? And that's usually the case with most of us. So you can't change it. You both went into a relationship with the absolute best of intentions. You love each other. You want to make the White House picket fence and dreams come true and happily ever after, which is what we do when we get into relationships. And shit goes sideways, especially in active addiction. And, they go unfavorably. And usually, most of the times, us in active addiction, we get the short end of the stick because it's not that they take shit. We just walk away from it. By the time we turn around and see what it is that we walked away from, then we're pissed off. Whoa. I didn't want it to go that bad. I was trying to reel it back in before this happened. So anyway, that's just part of separating the resentments. I had to take what I felt my father, what I judged, me being in the seat of judgment, that I judged my father for owing me for. and then what he shoulda, coulda, woulda, shoulda done for me, and I had to cut him some slack. I had to forgive him, and I had to forgive him for me to be comfortable with me, so that I didn't, so that I could go and be free and apologize for my side of the street and be at peace with it. So anyway, but that's all in 9th step stuff too. It's a lot of times it's hard to stop the ball from rolling. That's why trying to write an 8th and 8th step without thinking about a 9th step is damn near impossible. It's to write the list, yeah, but to get to the exact nature of things and just look at my side is a whole different animal. Especially when our feelings are still hurt. But time's on our side there, because it's easier to draw back on stuff that happened years ago and have that hindsight and look at it and see, okay, well, I did this, and this, and whether they did something that was way worse or not, that still doesn't free me of being and doing what I did. So number 5, can I let these resentments go now? Pretty easy. Yes, sir. That's what we have to do, because it's killing me. Number 6, if not, can I muster the willingness to add these names to my list anyway and worry about becoming willing later on? Absolutely. And in fact, I suggest often to guys that, you go to the easy resentments first when you do get to 9 steps, that we do the easier ones first. We don't got to go to the hard ones first. We don't go to the people that, we had the biggest resentments with and try to make amends with them first off on the bat. I'll just go to the next questions. I kind of answered that one. 7, are there any people whom I owe amends who may be a threat to my safety or about whom I am truly concerned in some other way, Ray?
Yes. Yes, there's fear. Especially financials, especially not so much for the people that I love and stuff like that, but people that I knew. Mostly financial, I think, would be having to get hit with some sort of restitution or things like that.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. To the people we have harmed and how we have harmed them, there are many ways that we can inflict deep emotional harm: neglect, withdrawal, exploitation, manipulation, and humiliation, to name but a few. If our heart says it's harm, if our heart says it's harm, it is harm. Making our list. Number 7. List the people we have harmed and the specific ways I've harmed them. So that's not really just a question to ask. That's giving us direction on exactly how we're supposed to write that list. So the next thing is becoming willing. Number 8. Is saying I'm sorry sufficient to repair the damage I've caused? John?
No.
Number 9. Is only changing my behavior sufficient to repair the damage that I've caused, Albert?
Well, yes and no.
Extrapolate or expand?
Yeah, because the choices say yes or no.
It'd be like,
what question was this again? Sorry.
Number 9, is only changing my behavior sufficient to repair the damage I've done? Just like, okay, well, I'm not going to beat my wife no more, so that's good, right?
But sometimes, if I may be still acting out in certain areas that I don't identify as a bad behavior until I see that later, and then I'm like, oh fuck, just because I'm not acting out, in one way it comes out, and then maybe it's coming out in another. So my disease attacks me in different forms, fucking pair of tips and so on and so forth.
Right. Like I said, it's not old behavior if we're still doing it, kind of,
Yeah.
and more is revealed. I mean, most of us intend on being right when we do stuff. We spend a lot of time rationalizing and justifying all the dirty shit that we've done to make it make sense in our heads so we could go do the dirty shit that we did. It makes perfect sense how even innocent people that I victimized and stole shit from, like, well, these rich people deserve it over here. I came from the hood and I went over where they had the nicer houses across the tracks is where I did most of my vandalizing and stuff as a young kid because, they deserved it over there. I'd go over there and steal radios out of cars, stock radios, stupid shit that I knew I'd never even use just to steal them. Cost cost a lot of people a lot of money for senseless stuff that I literally just stole and threw it away. And it was just about the thrill of going out and getting away with something that I did, and random senseless stuff, but it made sense that it was okay to do it because I was pissed off and I was going to make the world pay, and I felt good getting away with something, sick, demented. It still doesn't excuse the exact nature of what I did. I damaged a lot of people's shit. So I owe a big payback to the general society, most of you people, I can't remember, the houses don't shit. None of that stuff even looks the same anymore, just way, way back. But I do a lot of other things to try to make amends for those things as we'll get into the ninth step that I've done to make peace with those kind of things. But anyway, so I don't do that behavior anymore. And that's a good part of it. But owning our stuff, change behavior is definitely something, especially when we're dealing with our spouses, the living amends of not being that same man anymore. Because, even when I want to, even when they give me an excuse to be that way, I've got to take the high road. Number 10, do I have financial amends that I don't want to make? Antonio?
Yes, for sure. 100%. Absolutely.
Can you add them to your list?
Yes. Well, not that. One or two.
Not all of them? Why can't you put them on the list?
Because I'm never going to pay Bank of America back.
It doesn't mean that we're making a list of the harms that we make. We're not saying that we're going to do a ninth step yet.
Yeah, but then
So we're making the list. Well, no, it's not that. There's a lot of different schools of thought on this kind of stuff around here. Like, right. See, there's I know schools of thought where some of these old school guys are like, you don't file bankruptcy, you go back and pay every debtor you have. I'm like, I filed a bankruptcy back in 1996 while I was getting loaded. And if I was in that shape that I needed to file it again now, something happened, I am giving unto Caesar what is Caesar's due. Sorry, it's the way it goes in the law. I'm not going to intentionally go and screw people over and play the game like some people do. I know people that, every 9 or 10 years they go do a bankruptcy and then they start the whole cycle over and stack it up. And again, they run it through the. I knew one guy I worked with 3 times. This guy did it in less than 20 years.
My
different
thing
degrees.
is, I'm more concerned about making amends, financial amends to the individuals I defrauded, not the institutions. I really couldn't care less. I just have no remorse over it.
But the simple fact that the name of that company came up to your head that quick. That's the exact kind of stuff.
They denied me a credit card yesterday. I'm like, what the heck? This was a long time ago.
Yeah, it may not be on the credit report anymore, but they remember you.
Right.
They remember you. So you're going to be mad at them. So you're going to be mad at somebody for being pissed off about remembering you ripped them off.
I'm like, I'll go somewhere else then.
Lucky they didn't just take your money from you. They already got it, right? But I mean, just the mentality of it is to me, it's owning my shit. This is what I owe. If I was going to factual and get perfect to the perfect letter of the law, right with the whole world, I want to at least get a general list of what those things are. Whether or not it's practical, because remember it's a spiritual program, and spirituality is practical.
In my case, the IRS would have to be on there for like a stupid amount of money. Like yeah.
And they're hard to write off. So if they want it from you, they're going to come take it from you eventually.
The statute of limitations, they can come out.
Oh, okay. And they let a lot of that stuff slide these days. But when they want it, and they don't wait in line either. So however it works, it's just the essence of writing the list. Yes, I did that. You know, the checks in the mail, I won't come in your mouth wise, got to go. You know, I mean, write down what I did wrong.
Right.
I got to own my stuff for me. You know, because if I'm not the problem, I need to own what I did, and I need to separate what I've done from what my intentions were. You know, dude, I'm telling you, man, it's crazy how much I could be looking down at the world for all the little shit that I could pick the world apart for doing. Meanwhile, I'm sitting back in the back of my head thinking about all the dirty shit that I knew. I mean, my head always knew, you know, so I'm the hero in zero. So the steps I'm trying to get right sized. I've got to own an exact picture of who and what I'm at. This is the 8th step is kind of an extension of the inventory, because now I'm inventorying all the wrong that I did, not just my current personal defects and the life story or whatever it is that we did in our inventory. Now we're adding up all these other things that we did. So we just simply, it takes what? The smallest, minutest amount of ink on a piece of paper to add it on the list. And then maybe a sentence of the exact nature of what it is. This is who it is, and this is what I did to them. Don't have to go that far on a debt or a creditor. You know, I borrowed some money, I didn't pay it back. Boom, boom. I guess it's about this much money or whatever. You find it or you don't find it, you know, for whatever reason, you come to peace with it, but you can't come to peace with something you don't face.
I'm already at peace with it.
Okay.
Well, if you're worried, you wouldn't have brought it up.
No, I brought it up, but I have no negative feelings about that at all.
I'm going to take my bank account and go somewhere else. Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah.
I closed the account because I opened another account.
Because they wouldn't let you screw them again. Okay.
Direct deposit bonus. So I'm no longer needed that account. But it's, anyway.
Starting to fuck over Wells Fargo.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we got to remember that these steps are about saving our life. And I have to be as true to myself as I possibly can. You know, so if it's something, especially if it's something that my heart is telling me, you know, it needs to go down on paper to at least discuss. Just the sheer time we've just wasted on it tells me it's something that needs to be discussed a little bit more, just from my experience. Just to at least look it up. Because this is little things that, like, you know, when we get a little further down the spiritual path and we're living this dream and we've got all this stuff and we're just thinking we're just so damn spiritual, we just can't see straight because we're living such a perfect fucking life. And then we're sitting and in the back of our head, we're sitting next to people and we're thinking, yeah, you're just a fucking imposter. You still have all this other low life scumbag shit that you never even faced. And I don't want to have that shit in the back of my head anymore. You know, I want to be free of all that kind of stuff. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to go out and fix every one of these little things, but I have to own it and put it down on paper. I've got a long ways to go on all this other stuff. Like I said, if God wanted me to go back and pay the price for every little felony that I got away with and go back and throw myself under the bus, I'd be going and surrendering myself to the authorities and being locked up for the rest of my life. And that would hurt a lot of other people. And so I don't really think that that's what God, if God wanted me rolled up, he would have rolled me up like he did with everything else back then. That's not the case. This is what I had to deal with. It doesn't excuse the fact that I need to at least add it on the list of what it is, especially if it's significant. You know, the little, you know, 5-finger discounts at the grocery store, and a little, you know, I mean, we're not looking about, you know, getting crazy with it. You know, a good general list to own what we've done, right? Was that number 10 that we just did? Okay. 11, what would my life look like if I had already made these amends, George?
I've done this step with you 4 times, and here I have no idea. I you know, it's like it goes over in my head, and, you know, I don't know if it'd be, I think it would be a little bit different, but I'm still stuck on one person, and I got, you know,
One person?
one person.
That's not bad.
No, it's not bad at all. I just got to get it done. But would my life be different? I don't know. stumped on that question. It's one of those gray areas that I don't think sparks are gonna fly out of my ass, but.
Just free and feeling good is good enough for me.
Yeah.
To me, I mean, most of the stuff is pretty, I mean, when it gets down to it, a lot of the stuff we're going back to mess with, most people, especially people that are still in our lives, are like, yeah, I knew you did that. So, I mean, a lot of people are like that, I mean, yeah, we know you helped me look for that shit you stole from me. They knew it most of the time, I mean, we steal stuff and blame it on somebody else and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. And like it says, we're never going to be done with this list. I love that it says that right off the bat. This list there's always going to be work to be done on it, and especially when we stay as we go through the steps more and more and more. I mean, just like in the fourth step, where we're taking in the sixth and seventh step, where we're focusing on the big bags of garbage. You take the big bags of garbage out this round of steps, which is the main stuff that's haunting you and messing with you right now. And as more will be revealed as we work the steps and get further down the road, then we do the fine tuning of the cleanup, and there's more of the less and lesser stuff because we become more and more sensitive to not having all the relationships in our lives restored, and like it says in the very beginning of the basic text, we want to be able to look the world in the face with neither aggressiveness or what's the other one? Shyness? I don't know the other one. I forget it. It was at the beginning, but I'm not trying to, I don't want to hide from it. I just want to be right sized, and not feel like I'm lesser or more, just even, man. Join the human race, not being lesser or more of a human being anymore. 12, do I owe amends to people who have also harmed me? Yes or no? Our recovery calls on the practice of spiritual principles of forgiveness. Through prayer and any additional help we may need to seek out, we can find it within ourselves to forgive the people who have also harmed me. Adam?
Yep. Yeah, so to answer the first part, yeah, I do have people that I owe amends to who also harmed me. And And I guess there's a part B, right? Because it says, what have we done?
The next
what have
part.
I done to become willing to make amends?
Right.
I haven't done anything so far.
Right.
To become willing to make amends.
Right.
So there was one person in particular that I guess I need to pray.
And there's going to be people like this on our list that we're not ready for, that we've got to pray for, that we got to get a little further down the road spiritually, because we don't want to go to people while we're still stewing on resentment and still fuming about stuff and try to fix it. It's not going to go out. It's not going to work out well, so until I know that my heart and my head is right, and sometimes time is our friend, that time heals most wounds, and a little time behind us stacked up with some good, credible, clean time and all that stuff, we can go back and straighten out stuff that we maybe wouldn't have been able to do before. But again, when we get to the ninth step, there's going to be plenty of work to do before we worried about those last 2 or 3 pesky ones that I really hate that motherfucker, and I haven't got over the resentment yet. So I'm not quite ready to do that yet. And usually what winds up happening is by the time we get through a few more of these steps and done this process with a few other people, then we start realizing the benefit that this step has for us and how freeing it really is. And that hanging on to these resentments we have with other people is literally, we're punishing ourselves for what somebody else has done to us. It is a waste of useless energy, just because we want to reserve a place in the seat of judgment to look down at another human being, when us of all people have zero right to sit in the throne of judgment on any other human being. We may not have all done every little dirty thing, but to one degree or another, we've all done things that we're ashamed of and regret doing. And if that be so true, we want forgiveness for those things. And how dare we not extend those same kind of things to other people as well? I'm a sick human being, and one of God's kids, just like everybody else that's out there on all the other bozos on this bus of life, and just getting to that peace part where it's just not worth keeping that negative energy inside me anymore. Even if I've got to go be more own more of the bad side of it than's really my responsibility, and let people be more right than me, however they have to be to make peace with somebody. It's okay to do that, because it's just more important to be happy than it is to be right. I used to be more important to be right, whether I was right or not. And I don't have to be that way anymore. All right. Spiritual principles, number 14. Is determining the exact nature of my wrongs valuable in the 8th step? Well, yes, because if I owe some money, I need to know close to what it really is that I owe, right? If I did harm, I need to know how far I have to go to earn back a good place in that relationship, right, X? So tell me about that. Is determining the exact nature of your wrongs valuable in the 8th step?
Yeah, it's back to me. It is.
How much you may owe that person?
Yeah, I have people that's absent in my life because they feel like I owe them an apology. You know what I'm saying? And if I think about it from their perspective, maybe I do. And maybe it's something so simple that we can build a lasting relationship, Because I don't miss them when they gone, but you know what I'm saying? But I'm sure that we can, be real cool again.
It's crazy how with family, the smallest little bit, the minutest inconsideration on our part with family turns into a fucking family feud. People don't talk to each other for years. My mom's got sisters that she ain't talked to forever. And, I've tried to bring them back together and make peace between the family and shit several times. And every time one of them makes me eat a shit sandwich out of it. I just can't, there's no matter what I do, they will not let their resentments go for nothing. It's just, and I look at it and it's like, I know where I got it from now. Once you got on the shit list, you stay on the shit list. Nobody gets off the shit list, no matter how much they do apologize, because they're just going to screw you over again. So just play it safe and put everybody on that list. Well, when I stack up every minor inconvenience in my life, the whole freaking planet winds up on that list. And then where am I? Just like it says, stuck in isolation again. Now I'm writing off my whole family, and when it comes down to family, this is family right in here, but blood family is important too. When metal hits the road and you're looking for somebody to wipe your ass, it might be a family member before somebody in this room is going to be running over to help do that job. It's just, that's how these things work, and it is important to make peace with them. 15. Will the honesty and courage I experienced in the previous steps help me work this step? Yes. Always praying first before we write this. Before we pick up the pen, God, show me what I need to learn, and then be man enough to write what comes on my heart. And there have been times I've tried to, I had my old employer, and I share about in the 9th step usually too, and I refused to put him on my list in the beginning because it's like, that's just the cost of doing business. The guy that got me in the auto body shop world, I started sweeping, I swept and mopped, kept the bathroom clean and washed cars in this body shop. And that's what gave me the start in the trade that I've got right now. And I always we hand wrote out our timesheets, and I never took a lunch, which I always took a lunch. I was always on time. I always worked longer than, I always rounded it to the top 15 minutes. One way or the other, it was always favoring me. And that shit gnawed on me. And I was like, man, I knew guys did the same thing to me when I had my body shop. And that's just the cost of doing business. And if you're too cheap to buy a time clock, that's just the cost you pay because you didn't have it set up to be accountable, right? That's what he deserved. And so I wouldn't put it on him. But that shit haunted me for a couple of years in recovery. It just kept coming up on my heart. Like, man, I wouldn't be where I was at. I wouldn't have the career and the life that I have today had this guy not given me a shot in that shop. Within 2 years, I went from detailing cars to managing the body shop. I was in recovery at the time. He gave me a lot of breaks, but I owed him for everything I'd become as far as being able to, provide for my family. And so I saved up some money and walked in with my checkbook and about $3,500 in my checking account and told him the truth one day, ready to write him a check to get started on the amends, because it kept gnawing on me and I wouldn't put his name on the list. And I finally was like, man, I got to go do what I got to do to make it right and face this. And I knew it because it kept haunting me. It kept coming up in my gut out of the blue, just, knowing that I needed to make it right with this guy. And that's how we know when if it keeps coming up in our heart, whether it's Bank of America or ex-wives or whatever, we probably know we owe something somewhere.
Did he take the money?
Huh?
Did he take the money?
and did what he told me. He's like, Robert, I knew you did all that stuff. He said, you think I'm stupid? He says, like, I know you never missed a meal, No, you didn't skip lunches, I mean, he was like laughing. He's like, I knew all this stuff, and I'd been in to see him a few more times during, that I'd been clean. I'd just stop by to say hello. And he says, man, I don't want your money. He says, I knew what you did. He said, you had my back. He says, when I was disappearing from my business, he said, I knew you were there handling my business for me, making money for me and my family. And I knew what you were doing. And I was glad to pay that price to have you in there looking after me. He says, the only thing I want you to do is come by and keep visiting me once in a while. He says, I get people to come by all the time and see me. He says, every time I see an old employee come by, they want a job, they want a favor, they want something. He says, you're the only guy that's ever just stopped by just to say hello and see how I'm doing. And I was like, fuck. Our friendship was a little bit more. I'm about 2 years overdue of a visit right now. So my gut's telling me I better go over and make sure Dave's still kicking. But I continue to do those kind of things, and then I 12-stepped his son. Which I think he's still pretty active. He didn't quite get it the first try either, but who knows? So I'll stop back by over there. Never know what God's going to serve up, right? But I was willing to do it. And then when he cut me the slack, the way he cut me the slack, I was like, all right, cool. So the score kind of wound up being about like what I thought it should be anyway. But I had to be vulnerable enough to lay it on the line and let him make the call. And that was the thing, I'm willing to write the check. I got the money in the account. I'm not just showing up with a promise to say I'm sorry. I'm showing up with money in the bank account ready to write the check. And that was the freeing moment. So anyway, next one here. Mama calls. Which number was that? 16. Okay. Are there names that I haven't added to my list yet, Antonio?
Well, yes, I haven't.
Buttercup, anybody you haven't added to your list yet, Ryan?
Me?
Is there another buttercup around here?
You're my only Buttercup. Okay. Just making sure you're paying attention. La La Land, right field, laughing at everybody else here going through pain. What are some of the things that I've done to increase my willingness? Pray and I like I said, I'm a firm believer in starting off with the easy resentments first. That's what increased my willingness to go to the next level and go to the next level, go to the next level. So we don't gotta hit the home run out of the park on these things right out the bat. We can go for the easy one. We can go for the sure thing, right? It does. I don't know how. I mean,
The more willing you become,
you become willing and you become more like know that God's got you no matter what, And most people, are just shocked at, the earnestness of your coming back and you're not looking to get, they're used to us coming back and apologizing and trying to hit them up for something, but they're not used to us just coming by to see how they're doing and set the record straight. We're not trying to set them up for the next one. Number 18, how do I feel about praying for willingness? I think it's absolutely necessary. And it's also scary too, because I know if I pray for it, I know God's going to give it to me. And then I got to go give my money up. I really don't like giving my money up. That's just, but it is important. So developing a compassionate spirit becomes possible at this stage of recovery. Before we did the work involved in the previous steps, we were too caught up in resentment, blame, and self-pity to think about others. Along with our ability to think of ourselves as ordinary human beings, we begin to see that others are doing the best they can with their humanness too. Become a little bit more right-sized. Number 19, am I beginning to feel connected with others? Again, getting out of that isolation stuff, man. I didn't know. Everything was about ways and means before. Now I'm just trying to be part of society, being one with the people around me and not the us against them kind of mentality anymore. Am I beginning to feel compassion and empathy for others, Jeffrey?
Am I beginning to feel compassionate and complete?
Compassion and empathy
Yes.
for other people.
Yes.
Anybody else feeling more compassion and empathy for people these days?
I don't know what empathy is.
Yeah, fuck them, right? They can get theirs. I got mine.
I really don't know what empathy is.
Empathy?
Empathy is care for
When you
somebody
feel
else.
other people's pain, when they share, or, stuff like that.
Empathy is what we do in the meetings of Narcotics Anonymous. I can relate to your pain. Okay, I'm not over here patting you on the ass, giving you sympathy. Then it's going to be all right, sweetie. But I can feel your pain. And I can also share with you that I had the same pain and how I got through those pains.
Well, if they relate to empathy.
You can't use the same words for everything all the time. Empathy is a small word. Says a couple words in one word, right? Better than impotent. These old guys are laughing. Old guys are laughing a little too hard at that one. Moving right along here. We don't need to talk about that. Oh, that's not a problem here. I ain't got that problem. Never. Okay. So moving on. So discussing every single one of our amends on our list with our sponsor is essential. I don't believe that 100% either. I think there's a lot of basic amends that we just know what we need to do to make things right. A lot of amends are real simple, and if we keep them simple, then it's not that big of a deal. But coming up with a game plan of where to start on these things, and sometimes, especially when we're brand new, we feel so bad. Like my first couple of years, I felt a whole lot like I'd done a whole lot worse as a father than I really had. I hadn't given myself any credit for, keeping the same address for all those years and letting my kids go to the same school I mean, there's a lot of things that is an addict, an active addiction. I had to give myself a little bit of credit for that I couldn't see at the beginning. So, I did need a little bit of help with getting a good perspective of the exact nature, and what I did owe was important. So, talking to a sponsor did help on those kind of things. It doesn't matter how long we've been clean or how much experience with making amends we have. Every one of us is liable to misjudge a situation when working alone. But we often find that we can see things more clearly when we look at situations from another's point of view. We need our sponsor's insight. We need our sponsor's encouragement. We need our sponsor's vision of hope. It's amazing how much a simple discussion with our sponsor can do to help us tap into this quiet strength that lives in each one of us. When we stripped away the distracting influences and have exposed that solid core of serenity, humility, and forgiveness, we are ready to work on the 9th step. Yeah. So you put a whole lot of words behind a step that is super freaking simple. The main thing is write the damn list. If you have to question it, if you got a doubt,
Just write it.
Just write it down, right? I mean, if you're battling whether or not you should or shouldn't, usually that's a red light indicator that you should put it on. That if I'm mind fucking over it for any considerable length of time, then rather than sit there and mentally masturbate over these things, I need to put it down on paper so we can discuss them and get to the point. And many times we may just put it on the shelf like we've talked about and put it towards the bottom of the list, but it's on the list nonetheless for later on. And then we'll become more and more willing as we get through more and more of the steps. And most guys, I try to tell them, when we do get to the 9th step, that before we move on from the 9th step, that at least a couple of amends actually be made. Because I have seen people that have worked this whole step working guide and not actually, because they've answered every question in the book and did all the writing, but didn't actually factually go up to any human being and really make a face-to-face direct amends with anybody. And those are essential things that need to happen, because it's when we look into another human being's eyes that we've harmed and we make that little connection, like we know and they know. And then they also know that we're not that cat no more. We get a little bit of separation from our past. Then we get to take some action to put our past in the past. And we get to work on a future relationship that we may have burned and thrown to the side. Didn't care. I mean, at one point, I didn't care whether I got relationships back or not. I didn't care what had to go. The only thing I knew what was staying was the dope. Everything else was optional, So now I'm starting to regain some value of what's really important in my life. And anything that's important, I'm going to have to work on to have. And relationships are huge, learning how to survive my emotions, especially people that have hurt my feelings. Very, very important for me to make peace with those kind of things, and grow up, own my side of the street, no matter how wrong they might have been. It's just big boy stuff that creates a lot of integrity for me. I'm the one that benefits from doing this step, whether how they accept it or not. And I hear people, it's even written in the literature that it's not so important how the amends are received. And I differ on that a little bit. I think we're very creative as addicts around here. And if we really want to make something right, just like when we really wanted to get that cookie,
10 miles for that dough.
Right. We work really hard to get what we want. And if we put that same kind of tenacity into trying to make that wadded up piece of paper as straight as we can again with somebody and amend the situation, that we can do it if we really want to badly enough. And I'm not saying that we make one person or one thing or one entity it's going to be the one thing that I'm going to hang my hat on, and I got to fix this, because then I could get back into self-will run riot with, I've got to make this perfect amends and it's got to go this way or not, but when these steps were written, it was in the middle of the Great Depression and nobody had any money. So all amends, when these things were originally formulated, there was the original amends, and then they knew that there was going to be a second revisit later on when people got some money and means to actually be able to make things right. Because it's going to take more than just an apology to make things right. So it's not a one and done. And if they say, the parents say, the parents is typical. Parents will be like, we don't care, we don't want anything from you, just stay clean. We're just tired of, we're just grateful we're not getting the phone call from the coroner, just stay clean and that, but they accept that and let us off the hook. And then they come back and then we know we still owe a debt. So when it's time to help mom and dad move, or they need the house painted, or they need some, you could tell that the weeds are growing up around the front of their house last time you visited, plan on taking some tools the next time you go. And just do what a good son would do. And the 9th step has a great way of turning into the things that we should have been doing as responsible children, fathers, husbands, anyway, that they turn into being the driving force that makes us become the men that we really should have been. That's what I found with most of my amends is, it started out, I'm just being a good guy and I'm being kind to my wife, taking her to movies and doing all this good stuff. and I'm chalking it up in my brain as I'm making amends, because I'm going out of my way to do stuff, And in reality, it's just that's the kind of stuff that good dudes do, So it's kind of a double win for me when I look at it that way. So, anybody got anything else on this? Can we wrap this up?
Yeah.
It's a wrap. All right. Moment of silence for those of us who need it. Many of us have said, take our will in our lives, guide us in our recoveries, and show us how to live. Wah, 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 wah.